Alright guys, let's go ahead and get started with the daily webinar for today. It's Monday, July 18th, 2016. We're, smack dab in the middle of the summer and things are still pretty good. There's been a lot of decent trade opportunities out there. Of course, there's been times where we've needed to be a little more patient and pick our spots a little more carefully, but and then there's days like today that, kind of surprised me a little bit where, the day started off really slow. I didn't actually have any trades in the first 20 or so minutes of the day. I caught PRKR. I caught it a little late, but it just ended up being a really good fader. So it just didn't really give me any. It never really gave me a reason to cover, and I kind of just I didn't even use much size on it. I just kind of nailed that one for a good pretty good start to the day, and then just sort of branched off from that onto XMY. Which, this one was kind of tricky because, as you guys know, it was kind of looking like it wanted to set up for a breakout. And typically I'd wait for a 320 break to confirm it. And I got a little greedy here, and I took some size through 310, and then I wanted to add through 320. I was aware of the risk involved in that, and it did take a couple $100 off my XMY long profit, which was around 450 or 500. Before that hit, but as soon as I took that hit, as soon as it broke 290, I turned around and shorted it right away, and that's where so I took a $200 or $300 hit on that, then just turned around and made 700 more on the short side. So I was really aggressive on this one today, and I think that tomorrow we're gonna have some good opportunities again on XMY and PRKR. I think they're both going to be fairly in play tomorrow. And other than that, I just kept, as usual, I just kept the losses small. A couple of small starter positions on, VII, a couple of small ones that just didn't pan out for me. OPTT, I took two $50 risk trades that both didn't work out. They're both totally against the trend. I just was thinking that, if, you remember how aggressively this was squeezing on Friday? Well, to me, I was like, I think that there could be some support down here. I was looking at the 650 and the 690 level, actually. And a couple of times I took, the two trades, I took 500 shares each time to risk 10 cents. I was actually looking for this to reclaim a trend and start to squeeze again, which, it was definitely within the realm of possibility. But when it doesn't work out, it's just it's part of my plan. It's just to stop out and keep the risk low. So this was one of those pretty good days, where I managed to keep all the losses under $100, which is pretty typical for me, as you guys have known, seen for the last X amount of months you've been around with us. And the losses, the wins were just pretty good. Ultimately, usually I, put together two or three big, fairly, decent sized winners, and then just have 3 or 4 small red. So ultimately, a pretty good start to the week and a good start to the day today with PRKR. So I guess one of the topics I wanted to cover from that I was mentioning on Friday was how and when to size up a little bit in your trading, but I wanted to not just only cover how and when to size up, but also when to size down, which is another really big thing to consider. Is if you guys have had a chance to watch the video that I did on the learning curve, I talk a lot about trading psychology, how and when to size up, when to size down. Actually, a lot of this stuff is covered within that seminar, but someone specifically wanted me just to cover this area. So one thing that I'll mention is that I think that during the middle of the summer is probably not a really good time to size up. And typically in July, I actually tend to size down a little bit. And I have been trading smaller size. But, it's funny because even with smaller size, I find that the profits aren't really smaller. A lot of the time, using smaller size is actually just going to, it's going to create less emotion in your trading. And it's actually can allow you to let trades work better for you and work longer for you. So there's a really fine balance, and it's going to be different for everyone. It's not quite like black and white when it comes to how and when to size up and size down. But typically, here's what I'm going to say. Put together 3 or 4 green days in a row, net green days after fees. If you can put together, string together 3 or 4 green days in a row, with smaller size, whatever you're trading, then, at which point I think you should feel free to size up a little bit. But I also think it's important just to know when to size up. So what specific trades might you use a little more size on? For example, a lot of the trades I took today were maybe just 500 or 1,000 shares or 1,500 shares, but with XMY, this was a bigger one. To me, this I had conviction that this one was going to fade after that fake out. I had a good feeling that a lot of people, got in long, and they were going to really help wash it out. So I was comfortable taking a little more, 2,500 or 3,000 shares short on that one. So to me, I kind of size up and down on a case-by-case or stock-by-stock basis, where I just, depending on how comfortable I am with the trade, what the risk versus reward is, what I'm comfortable risking, I kind of just calculate it on the spot. But generally speaking, when I first started trading, I as you guys know, I started a prop firm in my early 20s, and they gave us a pretty tight leash. They made me trade 100, 200 share lots to start, and then what they did, and I think that their method was pretty good, is they would start you out with 100, 200 shares, and then if you could put 3 good days together, then they would up it to 300 or 400 shares. And then if you could, show them that you can make money with 300 or 400 shares for a few days in a row consistently, then you could try using 500, 600 shares. But just keep in mind that, it doesn't necessarily mean that every trade should be your max share size. Unless maybe you're like JB and you're just super patient and disciplined, and the only trades you're taking are the A++ trades where you really are comfortable taking that little extra size. Okay, so it really is going to be a case-by-case scenario for you guys and what you're comfortable with and everything like that. But the most important thing is that when they would size you up at the prop firm, and I kind of took this with me when I left, but when I size up and I'm doing well, when I have a losing day, like if I have a loss in a day, I size it all the way back down the next day. Okay, I think that's super important. Like very, very important to consider that, after having a pretty good run of good days, you should, if you take a loss, you should actually turn around and take your size back down again. I truly believe that. I think that after a losing day, your goal the next day should really not to be to make that loss back, but really just to turn a green day again. So I mean, if you're averaging $200, $300, $400 a day, let's just say 200 a day, and you're kind of doing well. You're making 200 here, 200 there, maybe a small, a flat day one day, maybe a small $100 loss, but typically you're kind of in that area. And I mean, and then let's say you start to size up a little bit and it's going well, but then you kind of get slammed. Don't stick to your stop loss or don't stick to your trade plan, and you lose like $600 in a day. Well, that's going to be, it's psychologically, it kind of hurts, because that you set yourself back 3 days worth of trading. Even if you go back to your regular $200 a day, it's going to take 3 days to make that back. So there's definitely some psychological aspects to sizing up, and it just really depends on the individual and how they handle those situations and how they handle those losses. Now for me, after 11 years of trading, I've kind of got myself to the point where as long as the loss is under $1,000, I'm not really going to bring it with me to work the next day. Do you know what I mean? If I come in the next day, even on a $500 or $600 loss, it's not really going to be affecting me too much, because I know that I can make it back probably in a day or two, if not the same day. But typically, regardless of what I think I can do or what I did, when I do take a loss, the next day I come in much more defensive. I think the way to look at it is, I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but you guys remember, I don't know if you guys watch UFC. I'm not a huge fan, but Colin McGregor, the UFC fighter. If you get too confident, too overconfident, too cocky, it's kind of like that, you get too confident and you can just take a swing that you shouldn't take, or you stick your jaw out just a little too far and you get clipped, right? Trading's a lot like that in the same way. You're going to want to stay humble. You want to make sure that you're, ultimately protecting your capital over everything. And I think that there's a fine line between being overconfident and being scared. You really got to find that in between where you're confident when you're picking your spots right, and you're defensive. You got to be defensive at times too. It's a lot like, I guess you could say UFC fighting. Not that I know a whole lot about UFC fighting, but Defense is just as important as offense, right? Blocking punches is just as important as throwing them. So think about trading that way. If you take a loss, if you take a hit, I really think that the smartest way to go is to come back in the next day and just look to size down again, go back to what works for you, build it back up again, and then just slowly build your size back up again. So if you're trading 200 shares, 200, 300, 400 shares per trade, and you're doing well, you size it up to 600, you're doing well, then you go to 800, you take a big loss, go right back down to 200 the next day and start small again. And just know that if you're like a $100 a day trader, and if you actually allow yourself to lose $300, $400, $500 in a day, just accept the fact that it's going to take you probably a week to make it back. And it'll make a big difference in your trading in the long term, because it's really easy to compound losses when you come in the next day. Like, you take a loss and you just naturally, as a human, you're going to want to make that back as quickly as possible. But unfortunately, what usually happens is people end up compounding those losses because they're just fighting too hard, and they're playing out of emotion, and they're just trying to get themselves comfortable again, and out of that situation. And it's just not. It's typically a good way to compound those losses, and it's just gonna it's gonna end up bad. So it took me a long time to learn that too. But one thing that I definitely have done differently in the last maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years. It is definitely like every time that I take a loss, I size back down again. My focus the next day is really just to put in a green day, even if it's just $100 or $200. It's just to show yourself that you're still, you still know what you're doing, and just to give yourself the confidence to get back up to that level again. So if you're thinking about sizing up, just bear in mind that typically the middle of the summer is not going to be a good time to do it. Things are a little bit lower volume, but then we'll have days like today where it's a really good day out there today. There's a lot of good action, and you can't, there's definitely situations today where you could have used a little more size, and if you're comfortable in a certain trade, situation, or idea, it makes sense to do it, then you can do it. But for a lot of you guys, I think the best thing to do is just to not focus too much on sizing up. Just focus on finishing green each and every day, and getting confident in your trading, and understanding the risks that you take and why, and just doing proper trade planning. So I wanted to do the next thing I wanted to do actually with you guys was a full seminar on trade planning, because a lot of the times, for me, the trade planning at this point comes so naturally. I do it very quickly. Like, I'll very quickly make decisions, and I don't really feel like half the time I really need to think too hard about them. I just know the risk versus reward. Does it make sense? I know the setup, and I'll just go for it. I know for a lot of the newer traders, it takes a little more time to think it over. And sometimes just taking that time to think it over is enough for you to miss the trade, right? So we will, I think what we'll do is the next seminar I'd like to do is going to be on trade planning and calculating proper risk versus reward. Making sure that every trade that you're taking, makes sense, that you're comfortable with the risk. That's the main thing, You should never take a trade that you're not comfortable with the risk. Like, if I'm short 2,000 shares of XMY at 250, and I'm not comfortable taking a $200 loss if it goes to 260, then I'm just going to act out of emotion. I might actually stop it at a 256 in a panic, and then be really pissed off when it goes back down to 230, because I didn't have to stop it out, but I did because I was panicking. So again, it's really going to be on an individual basis. But if you're comfortable sizing up, and you've been doing well lately, and you've been grasping the concepts, and you feel like you're ready to try a little more size, just make sure you pick the spots carefully, and just continue to plan the trades properly. So if you're normally comfortable risking $40 a trade, like say that you're the kind of person that you look at a trade and you go, well, okay, I'm going to risk $40 in this trade. I love the setup. 400 shares, going to risk 10 cents for $40. And, I know the setup, and usually this is going to give me 25 to 30 cent reward. Okay. Well, if you're comfortable doing that, and then you feel like, I've had a few good days in a row, I think I'm going to try risking $60 today per trade. By all means, give it a try, see how it goes. Just don't get yourself in a situation where you're going to, take a silly loss that you're not prepared for. And just make sure that you're not going to get overly emotional about the size that you're trading. And let me know how it goes for you. And I'll do my best to work you through it. And I hope that helps. And tomorrow I think we'll do the seminar on trade planning, and you can kind of just put those two together to make sure that you're using all the tools properly that you need to do the sizing up, you know. But like I said, you know, for me, I've actually sized down. I've sized down quite a bit in the last few months. I've really just been focusing on just more solid trade planning and less size, and the results have actually been quite good. You know, it's been very consistent. My consistency has probably been maybe better in 2016 so far than 2015. I know it's been good for me. So I guess we'll leave it at that for now, guys. Tomorrow's webinar is going to be on risk reward and trade planning. Okay. Did you guys have any questions about sizing up or today's trades or anything else that we can go over for the last 5 minutes here before we get going? All right, so yeah, it seems like everyone's grasping the concepts well. Unfortunately, guys, I hate when this happens, but XMY got away while I was doing the webinar. You know, I might have to start doing these webinars after the bell, because you know that's a shame to miss that opportunity. But okay, so let's do a quick watch list for tomorrow. XMY, I still think there's gonna be some meat on that bone for tomorrow. I still think that 240 is going to be, now that we're through it, 240 is going to be a big level for this one. Over under, PRKR, 640 is probably going to be the spot. I know that 680 was the spot this afternoon, but 640 was the main spot. And look, it's all the way through that and faded nicely as well. So we'll do 640, 240, BLDP. This is actually holding up really well. And you know, this is one of JB's only calls today. He said long. He was getting long at 65 to 67 area, I think, in here. Man, what a fantastic trade idea, and it's just a really strong mover. So BLDP, I'd like to keep on watch for sure going into tomorrow as well. And a couple key levels. You know, it's like $1.80 right there on that breakout. $1.65 to $1.70 where JB called it. And $1.95, $1.90 is where it's been consolidating nicely for now. So maybe that's where we'll keep an eye on for tomorrow morning. And maybe SPU now that it's settled down a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today, guys. Good start to the week. It was a tricky day, you know. Definitely don't think that it was an easy day today. It really wasn't. I came off to kind of a rough start today. I think that, you know, I went a little, not big on these two, but I just I really made sure I maximized the return on this PRKR. I really let it go, you know, like I let it really run for me more than usual actually, which was, you know, good for me today. I've been trying to work on keeping these a little bit longer until there's a really good reason to cover, and you can see an explosive reversal right here. Now that's a good reason to cover, you know, some good volume, some basing action. Actually, just look at this basing action. This is usually something that'll cue me to get out, and in this case it did get me out of the rest of my shares. Was when you see some kind of basing like that, and actually marked it at 560, and then it came down and it wanted to come back down, and then it held, and then it just popped back over, and you see the increasing volume come in as it got back over 50 EMA. That's where I got out the rest of my shares, right there, under 90. I almost turned around and flipped it for a long, but I stopped myself that time. But all right, guys, we got 2 minutes till the close. I need to get going. I'm looking at a couple new places today. Going to be moving in with the girlfriend soon, so we're looking for a new place. So, I guess that's it, guys. Have a great day. Have a great night. The webinar will be up on the website as soon as possible. I'm going to start uploading it before I leave. Yeah, let's roll forward this good action into tomorrow. I think we're going to have a few good plays tomorrow. And as usual, guys, we'll start the live stream at 9 a.m. Watch list starts at 9:15. And we'll see you first thing tomorrow morning. All right, guys. See you tomorrow. Cheers.